Welcome back, peeps! How you guys doing today? So, on our last video, we had to be continued, and the camera cut off so darn fast on me that I didn't get a chance to thank our subscribers. So if you are one of those people, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not one of those people, what are you waiting for? But now, I gotta figure out where the heck we were so we can get this party started again. So I remember we spoke about the product we used, a thermally fused laminate, or otherwise known as TFL. We spoke about how we were going to mount it to our 80/20 framing, is the Lepage PL construction adhesive. And we also showed you guys how we built the interior part of that upper cabinet. And just look how nice that seam looks on our first ever dado cut. What? And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure we're at the point where we're just about to start cutting our TFL product. So I think we're gonna start right here. There you go, you're clean. Now to cut this HPL product, being only 6 mil thick makes it really flimsy. So doing this by myself on a table saw would be next to impossible to get a straight cut. So what I've had to do is I went and got a couple of these Sawhorses that just fold out, and they actually have a holder on the side for wood. So I was able to put 8-foot 2x4s inside there, and now I can have a 4x8 table to lay that stuff down on top of and cut it. And what a perfect opportunity to bring up a question we get quite often, which is, during your van build, is there anything you regret so far? And yes, I regret getting rid of my truck before actually building the van. I just paid 80 bucks to get a sheet of MDF delivered to us. But anyways, now we have a flat table that we can take our laminate and lay it down on top of and get ready to start cutting out our stencils. So placing our stencil on top of our laminate, I'm going to use tape around all the areas that we're going to be cutting so that it'll stop breakout from the saw blade going through the laminate, as well as prevent any scratching from the saw running across there when we're cutting. Now that we have that all complete, I'm just going to stand there for probably a couple days even and try and figure out how I'm going to cut this perfectly straight with just hand tools. But you can't procrastinate forever. Sooner or later, you just got to go for it. So my first plan was I bought this 90-tooth saw blade made for paneling and vinyl cutting that I could install onto my skill saw. Plus, I also picked myself up this KREG Rip cut tool, which is basically a straight edge for your skill saw that just universally mounts to any skill saw, and then it can run across the straight edge of your wood and you'll get a perfectly straight cut. Nothing to worry about. But the first problem was just the sound of that saw blade itself was, oh my goodness, ear piercing. If you're wearing headphones, I apologize now. As well, when you get near the end of your cut, at least I did, started focusing more on the straight edge tool than I did just the saw blade itself. And of course, we got close to that corner, it took off on me, wrecking the whole cut. Crazy, I saw sparks come from the blade. And it didn't cut through. What? It's just because it's all plastic and it's really flimsy. So first off, the shortest cut you can make with it is like 3 inches. Second off, when you put your saw into here and then you tighten down these set screws, if you tighten them down enough that the saw isn't going to move around in here, it lifts the back of the saw up off that plastic piece, which means you actually have to push it down while you're cutting and trying to keep the straight edge straight. It's almost more confusion than just actually taking your time, and I bet you I could do a straight line better than I could with this thing. So, KREG Pocket Hole tool, big win. KREG Rip cut tool, waste of money in my books. And I have also ordered a 120 tooth saw blade, which says it's actually made for laminate and particle boards, but there was none local in my hardware store, and Amazon couldn't get it here in time, so we're switching to the Jigsaw. I also picked up these T-shank carbide blades that are specifically made for laminate that fit into our Dewalt Jigsaw. Measure the distance from the edge of our jigsaw to the edge of the blade. And then set up our aluminum the exact same way so it can be a straight edge. And there it is. Doesn't get too much better than that now, does it? Jigsaw with a carbide bit for the win. And another big win for the 80/20 as well, because, well, I like to see you do that with a 2x2 piece of wood. So I continued that exact process on every single cut. And look how smooth those lines turned out. You'd almost think we had a professional do this. So I guess now all we gotta do is find out if it actually fits. It's a tight squeeze. Oh, what? Holy crap. Can you say absolutely perfect? And just one more quick tip about making the template. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I took a full sheet and cut that one out because they're such big panels, it was easy to do. Now on where this part of the cabinet is, they're really thin strips. So when it was a full sheet and you tried cutting it out, it would move and sag. So it was next to impossible to get a straight line on these thin bars. As well, as you can see, it makes a huge cutout in some of these areas, which creates a huge waste in product, obviously. So what we're gonna do now, I just cut thin strips that are the same width of the bars we're gonna be doing. And then I'll just use some easy tear packing tape and just tape the edges together until we get that perfect template, and we'll build it all into one big piece so we can build it out of one sheet of our TFL product. And 5 hours of cutting time later, this is what we're left with. I would say it looks pretty freaking sharp. What do you think? And I definitely have to say, it is really, really lightweight. I bet you it's lucky to weigh a pound. And along with that, it's also very, very fragile. So that 5 hours of cutting time I spoke about is actually ×2, because the last time I cut this out and tried to bring it in through the back of the van like this, whoa, I frickin' snapped it as we stepped up into the van. So I ended up having to cut another one, which is 5 hours ×2, because it doesn't seem to get any quicker even the second time around. Look, I've even started dripping blood even all over inside the van from all the cuts when we're cutting that plastic. When they say putting blood, sweat, and tears into something, it ain't no joke. So after a day of sitting around and sulking, okay, maybe 2 days, we decided we better get to work and get a new piece cut out. And days later, we're finally ready to move forward. But I've been waiting all day to record because the wind out here is insane. But the only way I can give you a view of what we're looking at is by having you sit outside our side sliding door. Go away. Which also ended up destroying part of our shelter. So I got a ladder out. I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna fix that before it becomes a serious issue. And when it is actually nice outside, we have wasps attacking our hot tub. I don't know what is going on, but for some reason they keep trying to go in through this crack in the hot tub cover. And every evening I'm cleaning out 20 to 30 wasps out of my hot tub because they all go in there and end up drowning, of course, because they land in the water and can't get out, and they just keep committing suicide. Day after day after day, they keep coming back doing the exact same thing. Even the insects are like, what the heck did I just wake up to? Dude, this is crazy, I'm out of here. I will say that joke was way funnier when I said it based on today when I just read my Instagram post. I'm not going to take it out though, because yes, as they say, hashtag speak up for Lee. Have you guys heard what happened to a huge influencer in the van community? It is absolutely unbelievable. These two were somebody I watched a long time ago when they were traveling like Guatemala and even as early as the USA, and they were awesome to follow, Max and Lee. Now, what happened between them is none of my business, and it should be nobody else's other than theirs. But what has happened is unbelievable. It just shows no matter what your position in life, everybody is vulnerable, and you gotta live your every day like it's your last, and you gotta treat everybody, friend or foe, like there will be no tomorrow. I can say I've had thoughts like that, but to actually go through with the action, I don't think I'd ever be able to do something like that. But just remember, if you're having thoughts or feelings like those type of things, speak out. There's always a reason to live. Life is so valuable. You can never get it back. It is your life and the time you spend on this earth. There's no rewinding that, unfortunately. Which brings me to today, right now, it's my mother's birthday. And the last chance I had to see her, I blew her off for work. I ended up saying, no, I'm gonna go out with one of my engineers for wings and beer instead of coming and visiting you and helping you with what you wanted. Not knowing that 2 days later she'd pass away and I would never have that chance to come see her again. So yes, there's lots on the mind here, but let's get back to work. And to save some time together, I've gone and installed one of the panels already. As well as I just don't have enough clamps to do the whole thing at once. This is probably like $300 worth of clamps to hold all this up. And there's no way I was gonna go invest another $300 to do them all at the same time. Plus, I wanna do one panel at a time, make sure it sets properly. This will be our test piece. That way if something did go wrong, at least we'll have fixed to one area and not the whole wall. But, it looks like it went perfect. So let's take all our clamps and our wood trim pieces off. And bam! That worked like a hot damn! It is freaking solid, peeps. Now, according to that PL glue, it says you do have to let it set with mechanical pressure for at least 24 hours. And just because of the importance of these panels, I let them sit for 48 hours. Just for extra precaution and to be safe. And I'm gonna tell you, out of all the clamps I bought, these Dewalt ones are by far my favorite, no doubt about it. So, now, slowly bring this back in, hopefully not breaking it again. Careful. Look at that, and then we slide her into place. And the good thing about this stuff is it does give you a little bit of time to wiggle it perfectly into place like you want it to be. Just gonna hold it in place real quick so it doesn't move on me. I will say, if you have the option for a second set of hands, do it. Make my life a lot easier right now. The important part is making sure we get even pressure across everything so we don't get any waves from when that PL glue dries underneath it. As I can see from this panel we did, it came out supreme. There's not a single wave. It's super solid. And I think this one's going to come out just the same here. And this job has literally taken every single clamp I own to make sure it sits in perfectly flush. Making sure all of our edges are perfectly clean. Nice and smooth. So we'll let that dry for 48 hours now, and we'll be back. So let's see how it worked out. The good news is it stayed standing. Like we even second thought it though, right? Look how clean that came together where our shelf meets our edging. That is sweet. I did go ahead and paint that shelf white after all. And we will have a blocker back here to block off those wires. That'll come in time, but it's clean. Look how nice that looks. We got perfectly smooth lines. I'm really happy with the look of the material. And now we're almost finished because, as you'll notice, now we got to join these two big panels above the shower and below the shower. Now, exact same principle. We cut them to shape, we put PL on the back of them, and we clamp them together just like everything. I had the option between cutting it so we'd have one seam in the center on both, but because of the size of these panels and the uniqueness of their shape, I figured getting a clean seam at one dead center was gonna be next to impossible. So I've decided I'm gonna have two seams at the top, two seams at the bottom, but I'll have two more controllable seams than one seam off big panels to try and match up. You know what I mean? But we are really running out of time because this video is getting very long. So I'm just gonna take it and clamp it in place. And 48 hours later, this is what we're left with. And I gotta say, it came out better than even my little mind imagined when I had it all in my head. Now, if you were paying attention and you did a little bit of math, you are correct in thinking that getting those panels up took 6 days all by itself, not including any other work around it, nor all the cleanup I went through to get to this stage right here that we're talking in front of each other. But I'm gonna say it was definitely worth the wait because we now have a very, very solid wall. On this section, it's just the width of the aluminum for the most part. And once you got hinges through it, this is not going anywhere. And everything, of course, is still serviceable. You would never have to pull your front facing off to access anything in the whole van. Once you get to a certain point where you have a toilet and a shower and a big fridge and a heating system and a kitchen sink, you're not moving nothing around ever again. The versatility of the 80/20 where you can move it into place and stuff was great for building it, but once it's built, you do have to fully commit. Like, there's no going back even if you used fasteners on this. Well, you could, but it's not gonna be easy no matter what. And when you look behind in the shower where we put these wood pieces in the aluminum, this was the main reason for putting that wood in, is because once these big panels are adhered to the wood and the aluminum, they're not going nowhere. And they feel like a very solid wall. Like, it would take a lot for you to put a hole in that. And if you hit the wrong spot. Anyways, we also go along all the cut seams where there was no laminate because we cut it, and I did paint some melamine on it just to seal it. Has nothing to do with appearance, does not have to be pretty, but I did have to go around every single seam and just seal them off so I know no moisture is going to get in between those laminate sheets into that MDF board that's in there. They say it's water resistant, but why take the risk? And let me tell you how tedious that is with a little tiny brush like this. But now that we've gone through all that, I'm gonna let you guys take a look around before I leave, and I'm now gonna start preparing to fill this big hole right here. And that's on the next video. And I've been super excited for this one for like almost a year now. I've been excited to get to this part because I'm a fat guy, I like food, and that thing sure is pretty, my friend. So if you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, what are you waiting for? No more you do you, just get it done. If you have subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you on the next video. Oh yeah, and make sure you say hello down below.